Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So here I want to cover my Module 28 Rogue Whisperknife build. There will be timestamps on the playbar below to each different section, but I also have a full document linked below that has everything listed out of what I'm using. But I will cover it in depth in this video, also covering some reasons why here and there with demonstrations. So first of all, the purpose of this build. Well, it's of course to get you as much damage as possible, as you are a damage dealer, a DPS. Now, we could build around groups and bonuses that other players could provide us, but for now we are maxing out all of our damage stats without needing any of that. However, you will want to optimize when going into those group contents, when going into Endgame, and getting some more damage bonuses while switching out some gear pieces. For example, if we're going into the new dungeon in Wildspace, you'll want these boots. You'll also want, say, this ring. And so you will want to switch some things. And that will be in a later section of this video, group optimization. Again, the setup I show you right now gets you everything you need to maximize your damage by yourself. So now we're going to jump to our power setups. And there'll be different ones you want to use. In single target, we have this right here. You may want to change a few things depending on the content, but this is generally what I go with. And if we go to multi-target, you'll want an entirely different setup, which I'll show after this. So in single target, the important things to note is to make sure you have Disheartening Strike active on your boss. You will cast this, you will see that they will get a debuff right there. Just make sure your enemy always has this. Again, this is single target where you will generally only be attacking one enemy like a boss. Other than that, you just use Cloud of Steel during the downtime when you cannot be casting your encounter powers. For your encounter powers, you want to use Shadow Strike, Lashing Blade, and Impact Shot. I have messed around with alternatives, but they never came up as good as just this set. We'll cover the rotation in just a second, but we go to daily powers and you'll generally want to use Hateful Knives. For the class features, you want your Tenacious Concealment and your Dagger Threat. In some situations, you may want to have Advantageous Position instead of Dagger Threat. If you can't get combat advantage against your target, make sure to use this one. For the feat setup, you generally just want to go with this. However, if you want to go super burst, you could go with Last Moments, but overall you will lose a lot of fluidity by giving up Shady Preparations. You generally get off more encounters then, and it allows you to more quickly set up for the burst window rather than having longer cooldowns with this. From there, we go to the rotation, and it's very important you get this correct. So you start things off, we're going to have an artifact call, and you really need to make use of these. You can do them by yourself as well, but ideally your party members in group content will join you as well. And that's where you're going to have an artifact that you're going to cast at the beginning, and it's going to increase the damage the target takes. There's many of these different types of artifacts that do that. So have one, and you will start things off by making sure your boss has Disheartening Strike. Then you go Artifact, Stealth, Shadow Strike, Lashing Blade, Impact Shot, our belt item, our mount power, Stealth, Hateful Knives, Shadow Strike, Lashing Blade, and Impact Shot. And that is your artifact called rotation. Done. Now, if you want that in text format, that is right up here, this exact order. And it's very important that you have Tactician's Precision to be able to do that combo. Without this, you'll only be able to get your encounters off once. Be aware there are different rotations you can use in different setups, and this is the different ones I have tested. But you can see the one I just showed you in the power setup is the top performing one I have found. But from here, we jump to multi-target. You will want to have a separate loadout for multi-target, as you'll want a different feat, Shadowy Opportunity. This is the full setup that you would use. Your at-wills do not matter much in multi-target, but if there's a tanky enemy, be sure to put Disheartening Strike on them, and then just some Chilling Clouds to finish off some dudes. But most importantly is your encounter powers. You will use Blade Flurry, but only from stealth most of the time, your Path of the Blades, and your Smoke Bomb. For your daily powers, I generally go with Lurker's Assault, but in some situations you can use Whirlwind of Blades. For the class features, Tenacious Concealment and Advantageous Position. The feats are then just these ones here, with Shadowy Opportunity, very important. So as a quick demonstration, you'll go up to your enemies, you'll go into Stealth, Blade Flurry, Smoke Bomb, Path of the Blades. Everything in your Smoke Bomb cannot attack you, and that's a huge survival benefit on Rogue, and you can just output a ton of damage then through the Smoke Bomb combined with Shadowy Opportunity on each hit, and then followed up with Path of the Blades, also getting Shadowy Opportunity on every hit, and it's just kind of crazy. Again, you go to your enemies, you go Stealth, Blade Flurry, Smoke Bomb, Path of the Blades. You can do some at-will. As soon as you get Stealth again, do Blade Flurry from Stealth. Don't cast your Blade Flurry twice, don't put it on cooldown, because you will get your Stealth back every 6 seconds. Even quicker when you're one with the Shadows triggers, as it will do at most of the times at the beginning of the fight. So put that Smoke down, Bomb down, Path of the Blades, Blade Flurry again from Stealth, some at-wills. You just want to use your Cloud of Steel there. Once your Stealth is back up, Blade Flurry and Smoke Bomb. And every time you're entering that Stealth as well, you are cutting your cooldowns. And that is it. You just are really good within multi-targets. It's insane. If you have your mount power, make sure to cast that after you've gone in Stealth so that it gets all that combat advantage damage, and everything just melts on Rogue. You should easily beat anybody in multi-target with this setup. No problem at all. Now, as I showed earlier, you will be able to maximize all your offensive stats, those green sweet 90%. You will have to continually attack in combat in order to do so though. So let's show what you need to get this on your build. Now when we're out of combat, your stats will settle down to this, at least when you're buffed up as per the consumable section. You do want to prioritize, if you're building up your own character, your power, then combat advantage, then crit severity, then crit strike, and then accuracy. We also get 100,000 item level on this build, which is massive, and you will want to focus on that mainly to unlock content, but once you get to endgame and doing master content, it becomes pretty important as well in combination with your stats, but always focus your stats first. You will also want to look at certain damage bonuses like these boots. They're particularly valuable, but we will use them when we're in certain content, so this would be only in Wildspace, and depending on what group bonuses we can get. For now, we want all the green 90s, so we have these. So now we jump to our race and ability scores. Well, for this one, I'm just using Wood Elf. I prefer how it looks, and it gives me the 5% crit chance, which is nice and easy to build around, and fits the best here in this build. For the ability scores, you want to focus on strength and charisma. Now we jump to our gear, and you can see everything I'm using here. And in my document, you can also see where all of that comes from, just there. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. But it's not exactly the easiest to obtain it, and it'll be something you want to work towards getting. But the important part on this gear is the bonuses. So for example, this headpiece gives me 10% accuracy. This armor piece will give me 7.5% crit strike and 7.5% crit severity while I'm attacking in combat at maximum. Ultimately, this is what I found works the best in order to get all of those stats maxed out at that 90%. From here, we touch on the modifications, and you can see we've just got accuracy, accuracy, power, power, and then combat advantage, awareness, combat advantage, and combat advantage. You could just have another combat advantage here, just have the awareness so it isn't going red and we aren't just wasting it. Now we jump to our enchantments. This is the setup we use with also these artifacts. So you just want to have 3 citrines and a garnet. You will also want to have a cobalt when we check out group optimization. Otherwise, I would recommend having just a mix of different enchantments in your defense. It just doesn't matter that much. If you do want to min-max, sure, you would go with defense there ideally. We have a Devil's Precision, a Rage of Flames, and a Lightning Flash with a recharge speed. Don't be afraid to use movement speed here instead. Upgrade that to Celestial. When you're in, say, the new dungeon, second boss, last boss, it's very useful. For the artifacts, we want to have a bunch of debuff ones to be able to support the team, but we also have these for the stats to maximize everything. Again, in the document, you can see where each of those are coming from. You should be able to get them yourself. But don't worry so much if you have alternatives, it's not the end of the world. From here, we jump to our companions. And this is the setup I use. Again, this is for solo damage, maximizing your stats and getting all of these damage buffs. This is in single target with, say, the Batiri. If you're in multi-target, I would switch the Batiri out to, when it does get fixed, the Spine Devil, but it's currently broken to just not work. The devs did say it's getting fixed, so you will be able to use that. Just wait until it actually does get fixed. I'll be sure to let you know in a patch notes video. But for single target, absolutely the Batiri is king there. You can see in my document again where the companion gear comes from, and then also which companions I'm actually using, because some of them have a bit different names there. Now, as your striker companion, there are many you can use, and I recommend checking out my companion document. But I like to particularly use the Pseudo Dragon for single target at the moment. If I'm not going to run a support companion, like I could run Spine Devil instead, Black Death Scorpion, all the different ones there, and then yeah, provide those team buffs. But for multi-target, I do highly recommend the Minotaur Mercenary, but it's not such a big deal. I would make it more last priority a multi-target companion, that's for sure. You should have no problem just slaughtering everything as a rogue. From here we jump to our mounts. So in the current tab we just have Bigby's Hand. There are alternatives you can use like the Giant Toad, Golden Touch, Tunnel Vision. They all work. Don't really use the Slab of Ecta anymore. That's been nerfed, and it also is broken to not work with Batiri and Minsk properly. Bigby's Hand is strength based. You have to test that, and it just deals then the most combined damage because our physical damage is higher than our magical. Then we just have Mystic Aura here. This is just to give us the ratings, and the perk is when we're in a group, we'll also give those ratings to our teammates. But if you're receiving this from somebody, then yeah, as per the group optimization section, you'll switch to, say, Ferocity instead. For the stable, this is what we have. So we have a bunch of aggression, skill, and brutality, and some dominance too. You can again see in the document here exactly which ones those are. Be aware of the different mounts I'm using. There's no need to copy and paste exactly which ones I have. The important part is the bonus here, and many mounts will give different bonuses. I have a mount document linked below, so check that one out for the 4-slot mounts. As for the mount colors, well, the important ones are going to be your encounter power damage and your critical severity. Other than that, you can go like movement speed, stamina gain, and rough astral diamonds. From there, we jump to our boons. You'll want to do your campaigns, get these points, fill all of the power ones in, your crit strike, crit severity, combat advantage, accuracy, movement speed. You'll want to get Forte, recharge speed and action point gain. Then your Bloodlust, life lessons, blessed advantage, also blessed resilience, good for survivability. And then also make sure to pick up all the hit point ones, critical avoidance, defense, awareness. And then you can go also make sure to get damage and damage resistance against enemy types if you're running that content a lot. So like if you're running the demon web pits, make sure to have demonic mastery. For the guild stronghold, we just want accuracy here, defense, and revive sickness. And if you're just running around questing, make sure to have mount speed. If you're running like deathless content or you don't die, run movement speed. So last thing then would be consumables. On this build, we are using our Flask of Potencies, Squash Soup, Ratatouille, and Wildstorm Elixir. And that just gives us those long duration buffs there. So the last thing to note then, if you are going into group content and Wildspace particularly, you can slot in some damage bonuses. So this is what I'd use for, say, the new dungeon. Well, I personally run with groups with the tamed Velociraptor, and it fits the best with regards to being able to make up for the loss of power when we make these changes. So what I would do here is switch the boots over to the damage ones, and you should be able to get like the Paladin's crit aura to make up for that little bit of a loss from the boots. Otherwise, you will be just shy, maybe 2% crit strike, and that's not the end of the world. It's definitely better to have 7% damage if you're in Wildspace. The right ring, I would switch over to the Stellar Halo Ring of Xeraxis, giving you also damage in Wildspace, but you would do this if you are running Raptors, because you are losing all the power from this other ring. You would also want to switch this shirt over to Combat Advantage, and you'd want to switch these pants over to just high item level so you aren't overcapping, say, your Combat Advantage. You will also want to switch then the Citrine over to a Cobalt so that you aren't wasting all the stats there, and you will also want to switch a Dominance Insignia over to Skill and also a Dominance Insignia over to Aggression. This will get you the important stats capped out, and then overall you should be maxed out when in a group with these different buffs. That's excluding Portobello. You'll probably won't run him in a dungeon. You'll want like Tutor and Dredged, and Portobello, most people will max out their power anyway, and then the Combat Advantage you can probably work around. And you can see all of the steps here, so if you wanted to make use of pack tactics, you would have to do a bit of finicky switching of, say, companion gear or jewels or insignias. In most cases I'd just leave it. Mystic Aura, no problem, just switch over to Ferocity yourself. Tutor, you can switch off the Staldorf and Golden Cat and go the Tamed Velociraptor, or another power one if, say, you are running without Raptors. And then if you are running with Raptors, make sure to switch the power ring over to the damage ring. Switch your shirt, like I said, as well over to Combat Advantage, and switch your pants over to just high item level with a little bit of recharge speed. With the Paladin Crit Aura, you can easily fit in the Ultraviolet Wildspace damage boots, and fixing your ratings, we're just doing some insignia switches. And if you are running Portobello in the group, you can of course go back and switch this shirt over to high item level and damage, like this one with 3.5%. And then on a last note, you can switch to other weapons. You don't have to use Solarum all the time. They're good in Wildspace content. Very good, in fact. It's just in some cases you might want to use the Mirage Weapons. I found Mirage Weapons can be good, particularly on a less skillful player, just because there are a lot of automatic damage. But in most cases, I wouldn't use them because your burst damage is where all your damage comes from, at least if you're timing it correctly. And then you're feeding all of that into Shadow of Demise, and you deal a ton of damage in burst. If you're to use Mirage Weapons, you reduce your burst by quite a lot, and so you take even more of a hit. On top of that, Mirage Weapons will be getting changed pretty soon, and so I wouldn't rely on them. But they are good in the new dungeon, particularly if you're not as practiced or experienced running Rogue. Other than that, of course, you can run with your Stormforged weapons in pretty much anywhere. Hopefully this wraps it all up and answers all your questions, and you can find out what to use. At least have some reasons as to why. Again, with the base build, you get all your stats maxed out, and from there, you can switch some things around like I do to get some damage bonuses here and there. Once again, a massive thank you to all of these channel members for your added support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.